Chapter 155 to 158. Later. The time to set off arrived, and so we all split up and went our separate ways. Both my S class and the A class decided to take the most direct route, which also happens to be the most dangerous. Even so, with the camping car/bus, the S class have a major advantage in speed. I mean, I don't like traveling, but as much as I would love to make another one of those for the A class kids to get this over and done with, I can't just make something out of thin air, as I would have no way to explain it. Hypnotizing children with runes also doesn't sit well with me either. So I just settle with dealing with the journey like a normal pleb. But I did subtly add some runes onto the carriage to make the journey faster. Along with several other things. And why are the horses running so fast? Elizabeth, they're not tiring either. Akia, we never encountered any monsters. Hee hee. Ain't nobody got time for resting or monsters. Except when it's night, I can't explain the horses running at double their full speed for several days straight. And, Gaia. At this rate, won't this finish before we do anything? Rimuru, isn't that a good thing though? I speak up from my position at the back of the carriage. And, of course not. We have to show you how great we are, right guys? And turns to her classmates, who also eagerly nod. Why do they want to show off to me? Is it because Jeff told them to? No, despite how it looks, he wouldn't force his students into doing something just for his own pride. Which means they are doing this with their own will. But why? Rimuru, is that so? Then when we stop to rest for the night, how about a mock battle? You can show off to me there. And mock battle? I nod my head. Rimuru, yeah. I will summon a monster for you to fight, you can show off to me there. I said with a smile. The kids seem to like that idea, especially and who is the most enthusiastic. Well, I don't need to do this. I can already see how prepared and focused they are. During the whole trip, they constantly looked at the surroundings, preparing for any monster attack. When they had the chance, they also talked about tactics. Admirable. But, personally, I believe that they, like kids, should also have fun. Thus, I placed those runes. Rimuru, right, how about we play a game? Ilari, game. I nod my head again and take out a pack of cards from my pocket. On the back of each card is the word Uno. Rimuru, this game is called Uno. I'll teach you how to play. Curiosity sparkles in their eyes. And, but. Rimuru, oh, come on. No monsters have attacked yet, even after a few hours. Even if a monster suddenly attacks, I'll sense it and tell you beforehand. So come on. Oloi, is that even allowed? Rimuru, well, I'm distracting you with this game in the first place, so it should be fine for me to do this at least. Yeah. With my impeccable adult logic, the inexperienced children quickly relented and sat down around me. Rimuru, then, I'll teach you how to play. I'm gonna drop so many +4s on these brats. 3 hours later. Rimuru, GUH. I drop to my hands and knees in an oars pose. Rimuru, Bibakana, impossible. And that's 13 consecutive losses, Rimuru-san. And says as she drops her final card down onto the pile. It's a fucking +4. I lost 13 times against children who didn't even know what the game was called not that long ago. And won this time, but before that, Elizabeth won. And before that, Akia won. In short, they all had a win under their belt. Except me. Bruh. A ray of sunlight enters my eyes. Looking towards the horizon, I find the sun already setting. Rimuru, dusk, huh? The kids heard my muttering before also noticing the time. Rimuru, should we stop here? And, we'll do that. Stop the carriage and set up camp. And turns back into her leader mode and issues out efficient orders to her other companions, who quickly comply. Within an hour, the carriage pulled over to the side of the road and camp was made. The horses were unhooked from the carries, the needed items were unloaded, and the campfire was soon lit. At this point, the sun is already well over the horizon and you can clearly see the stars and the moon. Rimuru, right, you guys ready? Students, yes. The kids are in their combat gear and in formation, standing opposite of me. Hearing their reply, I start to summon their opponent for this mock battle. Sending Ranga to fight or even myself would be overkill. I want to see them fight against something more on their level. Scat hack. Runes appear on the ground in a circle. With a small burst of magicules, a monster rises from the circle and turns towards the kids with barely any intelligence in its eyes. A hoppard. It's a lizard with only 2 legs and moves by hopping like a hopping mouse, which is where its name came from. It's a D-ranked monster. A little hard for children, but if they work together, they should kill it with some difficulty. However, I was greatly surprised at what happens next. Ilari and Oloi, who are the fastest and are wearing the lightest gear, dash towards the hoppard, quickly becoming the focus of its attention. After they get close enough, they both turn towards its left and run. The hoppard turns its body towards them, snarling like a generic monster. Actually, I ordered it to do that, but I digress. Elizabeth, Earth Spirits, I ask thee to trap my foe in your grasp. Earth Hand. Elizabeth chants a spell and the ground underneath the hoppard rises and traps it as it was turning back around towards Elizabeth due to hearing her chants. But in the end, Anne and Akia rush forward and kill it. Akia, Hawa. And Haya. Akia jumps and pierces its back while Anne slashes its neck. The hoppard falls and begins to turn into magicules. Rimuru, not bad. Honest praise, it hasn't even been 10 seconds and yet, the monster is dead. I can see why Jeff is quite proud of his students. The kids gather back together and celebrate among themselves for a bit. Rimuru, right, some tips. Ilari, Oloi, both of you were good decoys, but it's not exactly a decoy if you both run in the same direction together. Elizabeth, magic is more about the imaging you have in your mind, so learn to silent cast so you don't draw attention. And finally, Akia and Anne, don't fucking shout as you charge. I honestly don't have much of an idea of what advice to give, so I just pointed out something they did and made it seem like they did it wrong. I also tried to make it sound convincing. Except for the shouting bit. Even I know only protagonists are allowed to do that without any repercussion. If normal people make a habit of that, they'll die. So the kids just finished taking down the hoppard with relative ease in under 10 seconds. Granted, it's only a D-rank monster, but you have to remember that these kids are only around 10 years old, give or take a couple of years. This is amazing progress and they could also be called geniuses in their own fields. Indeed, Jeff is a great teacher despite his prick-like tendencies. Ilari Rimuru-sensei really is a great teacher. Akia, right? He instantly pointed out all our flaws. Elizabeth, he also knows about chantless magic. The kids talk among themselves, but with my enhanced senses, I can easily hear them. I'm liking these kids more and more. Rimuru, hey, a question. Why did you want to demonstrate all this to me in the first place? They said they wanted to show off to me, but I don't know why. And, well, the S-class was notorious for chasing away most teachers that were sent to teach them. Even Jeff-sensei and Tis-sensei were chased away. Even those two. Now that's surprising. And continue to explain things along with the rest of the kids, but in short, they wanted to live up to Jeff's expectations by earning a high score on the test. To do that, showing that they can work together, kill monsters, and protect me while finishing the event quickly is a must. There was something else too. Oloi, Jeff-sensei also talks about you a lot, so we mph. Oloi, the kid with the choppy haircut, began talking but the rest of the kids quickly covered his mouth. It seems that was a little secret of Jeff's. But still, Jeff talks about me, huh? I hope they're good things. No, I'm pretty sure they are, otherwise Ilya would hear about it somehow and shave off his mustache. With the S-class group. Ilya, asterisk, cute lowly sneeze asterisk. Back to MC. Rimuru, right. Well. It's getting late, we should probably turn in for the night. Students, yes. And so, the day ended. 5 days later. Rimuru, we're here. Finally. We're in the town of. I forgot the name. Oh, Guratal. That's the name. Right, we're in the town of Guratal, finally. This stupid outdoor event is nearly over and all that's left is to explore some dumb cave and go home. Yes, I'm getting frustrated by this. At least I could keep my sanity with games and other such things I created with, Ahura Mazda, cough hentai cough. I also dealt with making all the food because, let's be honest, with this cheat skill any food I make becomes godlike. So yeah, we're at Guratal and now we gotta meet with the Count because he's the one who's dealing with all of the accommodations for the event. Boom. Now, from dealing with these kinds of sounds all the time back in Avalon, especially when Malim was still there, I can tell that this wasn't exactly an explosion, but from two things colliding at high speeds. I look in the direction of the impact. It came from a pretty big mountain. Rimuru. I'm going to take a wild guess and say that mountain is where the final stage of the event will take place. And yup. We went there last year. But which class arrived before us? Probably Ilya and the rest of the kids. As much as I would like to just teleport to their side and insta-kill whatever they are facing, I can't just do that in front of the A-class kids. Instead, I use universal perception to take a peek. Inside the mountain is a large man-made cave system of sorts. It looks like a mine that you would walk into with pickaxes. In the deeper parts, I can see Ilya, Kenya, Ryota, Gale, Alice, Chloe and even Tis standing there facing a thing. It looks like a knockoff predator. Seriously, I'm not joking. It's standing in a large crater, so it probably caused that impact sound when it appeared. Standing beside the kids are people who look a little familiar. Hey, hang on. These are the guys that messed with me at the Dworgen Gate. You know, the ones I turned into magical girls. They're standing there in all their magical girl glory, pointing their plastic magical girl wands at the specter, shouting something about evil beast, magic of friendship, and magical girl power. Tis is looking at them with wary eyes, whispering to the kids that they shouldn't become like them under any circumstances. Tis is a really nice person. Ilya flinches just a bit before she looks towards the place where I'm looking in from with a smile. Did she find me already? Kakaka. Right in fear. You puny humans have no hope against me, a specter. The predator knockoff spouts some more generic evil dialogue. Kenya, whoa, generic evil dialogue. Kenya mimics my thought process. I nod in pride. I taught these guys well. This specter is around B rank, maybe even a rank. With the gear I gave them, they should be able to handle it, so I'm not that worried. Alice, hey, Ken. Don't interrupt. I wanted to see what a common villain like him would say. Alice should from her position behind Kenya with multiple kunai floating around her. The specter has a couple of veins pop on its head from the conversation between them. Kenya, but guys like him appear all the time in the manga Rimuru-sensei give us. Kenya says while pointing his sword towards the specter. It was at this moment I remotely fiddle with the sword a bit. Drawing out a little of his light energy here, shooting it out with a little rune there. Pew. Most definitely not on purpose, a beam of light shoots out of his sword at that exact moment and pierces the specter in its chest. Specter, gah. Light element. My only weakness. The specter then disappears into smoke and fucking dies, revealing a full potion that just lands on the ground with a thump. Ryota. A drop item. The group of fully grown men in magical girl outfits cheer about vanquishing another evil, even though they did literally nothing, before skipping off into the darkness of the caves towards the exit. Everyone just ignores them. A wise decision. As for myself, I'm meeting with the Count of Gurachan or whatever right now. Rimuru, so if you give this potion to your wife she will instantly heal lol. I say as I place down a full potion in front of him. The Count fainted. A few days later. The outdoor training event ended peacefully and we all came back to school. I decided to do the A-class kids one last favor and have them join my S-class on the caravan bus on the way back, much to their excitement. Jeff has completely stopped acting like a prick at this point since I saved his sister who is the Count's wife. Apparently, his wife really admires adventurers since she had a sick body since young and Jeff became a teacher because of that. It's also why the Count volunteered to host the event in his territory. That specter stole the full potion that was meant for the Count's wife. Apparently, it tricked those magical girls to steal it and hand it to him. It was their fault in the first place. No, why would they even trust this guy? The specter looks creepy as shit and is obviously a monster looking to cause damage. Sigh. As for the event itself, S-class won by a landslide. Although a couple of teachers wanted to say something, when they heard that they killed a specter, AB rank monster, although this specific one was a rank, they shut their mouths. Kenya was also really humble about it since he didn't purposely shoot the beam of light from his sword that killed the monster. It was just an accident. Now, we're all back at school and I have a new desk lamp that I spent all the winning bonus money on, making me a happy man. Wasting money is great. All of a sudden, the Fire Nation attacked. Cough. No, they didn't. But I did get a bad feeling. I knew something was up. This sinking feeling in my stomach. I don't like it. Third person / author POV. Rimuru's bad feeling was completely correct. Something was indeed happening, and it's not a good thing. The Farmus Kingdom decided to assault Avalon, seeking to destroy it and take its resources for itself. Normally, doing so wouldn't be feasible since Avalon is strong. The spies sent by the kingdom confirmed this. High-ranking monsters like hobgoblins riding strange white dire wolves, kijin, high ogres, high orcs, dragonets, and many other monsters rarely seen are all gathered in the city. The high concentration of magicules from the gathering of high-class monsters and the runes Rimuru snuck in the city also help in the evolution of other lower-ranking monsters, making this city a haven for all things human and non-human. And this would have scared the shit out of the Farmus Kingdom, if not for the fact that they were confident in their new ally. The Reincarnator. A man who came from Satoru Mikami's Earth. Being an Isekai trash, he quickly adapted to the sudden reincarnation after his death and his new unique skill, Deprive. It's a powerful skill, but it has a large drawback too. Deprive is a skill that lets the user steal any skills and absorb any magicules from the target for themselves. It can work on any being, from the weakest green rabbit to even Guy Crimson himself. Well, maybe not Guy since he has an ultimate skill. The thing is, the user must maintain full physical contact at all times. Furthermore, the bigger the power difference between the user and the target, the longer it will take to absorb everything. Simply breaking contact for a millisecond is enough to completely reset the user's progress. However, if he could stay in contact for the whole duration, then things change. Veldora, the true dragon of storms. He is a being that has existed since the earliest of times, even before the first demon lords. Because of this, he has gathered an unfathomable amount of power. It's enough to drown the world in lightning many times over. How he was sealed is a mystery. But this seal completely prevented any movement and thus, after the Reincarnator maintained physical contact for 3 days straight. Veldora died. Or did he? Cough. In any case, the Reincarnator How has all of Veldora's skills, magicules, and even his storm crest. A reminder that Veldora at the time didn't have an ultimate skill yet. Now, popping into this world with a skill steal ability is already crazy enough. Appearing directly in front of one of the strongest beings in the world that just so happens to be sealed and immobilized is also pretty crazy. But both of those things happening at once? It's as if someone is begging him to take the shortcut to overwhelming strength. In the end, this is something that only happens to a protagonist. You can't really blame his thought process in that case, it's completely understandable after all. But he let that power get to his head, and we all know that is something a generic Isekai protag wouldn't do. And now, he is looking for the heroine of his story, his words, not mine, and to defeat one of the bosses of his saga, and maybe take the latter's skills and abilities for himself. But fortunately for the Reincarnator, Rimuru is busy at the Freedom Academy looking after Shizue's students. The Farmus Kingdom's army has set off just when Mikoto returned to Avalon and now, a few days later, they're at Avalon's doors. Flashback 3 days ago, an hour after Farmus entered the Jura forest and a day after Mikoto returned to Avalon. So? What shall we do? Soai has already noticed the army arriving the moment the first soldier stepped into the Jura forest. Then and again, they weren't exactly hiding either. Right now, he is in the main meeting room in Avalon, used for important talks with all the higher-ups. Benimaru, Soai, Hakuru, Shuna, Cheyenne, Kurobe, Kaijin, Rigard, Geld, Gabble, Vesta, Gabuta, Shizu, Pikachu and Mikoto are present. Benimaru, why are they attacking? Didn't you leak information to their spies about our combat potential? Soai, I do. But Sauka and her team have discovered that they made contact with someone who they believe can turn the tables. Benimaru against all of us. Soai just nods. Benimaru, is that so? Obviously, they aren't approaching with friendly intentions. But I believe we should wait. Cheyenne slams her palms onto the table. Luckily, the table has been reinforced with Rimuru's runes. Cheyenne, we should attack them immediately. Why are we waiting when we can go on the offensive? Soai, Rimuru-sama isn't exactly an advocate of strike first, ask questions later. Shuna, true. He would rather wait for them to attack first before retaliating full force and showing them that their choices were a mistake, and then he would punish them. Gabble and Vesta shiver and close their legs instinctively. Cheyenne thinks about it for a while before reluctantly agreeing with them. Geld, besides, defending isn't a bad choice. Hakuru, indeed. With the barrier Rimuru-sama has placed over Avalon, using this city as a defensive position should prove advantageous. The barrier covering Avalon is enough to take on an attack from any true dragon including Velzard and Velgrind and come out without a single scratch. It's the ultimate defense. It's also immune to any anti-defense abilities, preventing any piercing or bypassing skills like absolute severance. Phasing or teleporting through the barrier without permission is also useless. After some more talking, the plan is set in place. They will wait for the army to arrive first before retaliating full force and wiping them out. This also removes any worries that the Pharmas Kingdom might plead innocence and claim that the monsters attacked first. It's not like that would be something to worry about if none lived to tell the tale, but better safe than sorry. Throughout the whole conversation, Mikoto didn't say anything. She was indeed paying attention, but the same sinking feeling Rimuru felt is also felt by her. The sinking feeling that something big is coming, and they might not be fully prepared for it. Meanwhile, Shizu and Pikachu play tackle each other in the corner. The Pharmas Kingdom army now find themselves a few hours away from Avalon. A total of 20,000 soldiers have been selected for this war, along with the king, the head royal sorcerer Raisin, 3 heroes summoned by the kingdom and a certain mysterious reincarnator. Because the summoned Otherworlders are incredibly cocky and the reincarnator believes himself to be the protagonist, the Otherworlders and the reincarnator don't have the greatest of relationships with Kirara Mizutani as the only one the reincarnator doesn't spite. Kirara is a female, by the way. As expected, the reincarnator is a fucking simp and does not practice Kazuma's teachings of gender equality. Meaning the reincarnator acts nice to Kirara but treats any other guy like shit. The reincarnator is pushy as hell though, so Kirara still hates him. Kirara Mizutani is someone who can find blame in literally anyone except herself. Kyoya Tachibana is another Otherworlder. He seems like a nice person, but he's the most arrogant of the summoned Otherworlders, believing himself to be stronger than even Hinata, a person he thinks is the strongest in the world. That's bullshit. Hinata isn't the strongest in the world by far, and even so, he can barely touch Hinata's clothes even if Hinata uses only half her strength. Moving on. Shogo Taguchi is an extremely cocky and arrogant person who believed that he was one of the strongest there is and also believed himself equal to Hinata Sakaguchi. Once again, that's bullshit. But you can see that these Otherworlders are prideful and arrogant, Kirara herself being the least prideful. Now, although the Otherworlders hate each other, they all agreed on one thing. Shogo, hey, let's just go ahead of everyone else. Kirara, I agree. Kyoya, these soldiers are a bit slow. It seems your minuscule brain finally came up with something good. Shogo, what did you say, you fucker? These 4 Otherworlders decided to go ahead of the army and take care of Avalon themselves. And so, after casually notifying their higher-ups, they left. Using their enhanced bodies, they find themselves on another random cliff overlooking the city of Avalon. Shogo, hey, isn't that? Kyoya, unbelievable. Kirara, a city? Here. The 3 Otherworlders took a look at Avalon and instantly became stunned upon seeing it. A large modern fantasy city with high-rising buildings surrounded by a large wall and a mythical transparent barrier. It's been influenced by the fantasy world around it, but to these 3 Otherworlders, the design that is similar to the modern-day world is much more appealing. A city that imitates the world they were kidnapped from. A world Kirara and Shogo wish to return to. Kyoya doesn't really care about returning to his world, he's much more satisfied with the strength he's gained here. As for the reincarnator, he doesn't say anything. He simply grits his teeth and squints his eyes at the city. Why does someone else rule such a city? Jealousy runs through his thoughts. It never entered his mind that someone made such a place from the ground up, pouring a lot of work into it. He simply can't get over the fact that a magnificent city like Avalon isn't his. Well, it's what you would expect from a self-centered protag complex reincarnator. At this moment, a large portal opens up underneath them. The portal is a big circle that has orange sparks flying from its edges. I don't need to explain it, just Google it. By the panicked look on 3 summoned Otherworlders as they fall through, you can tell that it wasn't their fault. As for the reincarnator, it wasn't his doing either. Although he could have escaped, he simply looked at it with amusement, letting it do its job. The 4 Otherworlders disappeared from their spot in the next second. They reappear in the exact same place, but something is different. The skies are fragmented like glass, and the forest and city no longer have any sense of life. The 3 adventurers panic slightly, looking around warily, looking at the weird landscape. Benimaru, Mirror Dimension. It's a place created by our master, a separate dimension. Yes, the Mirror Dimension. You didn't think such a space would only be accessible to Rimuru, did you? Obviously, he gave his subordinates the key to enter the space. Yes, that key is a fucking sling ring. The otherworlders spin around, looking at the new figure with wary eyes while the reincarnator just looks at him over his shoulder before his eyes widen slightly as he recognizes him. He's one of the Majin he saw in the crystal ball. Benimaru just stands there, looking at the four of them with a blank face. He's dressed in his imposing red kimono designed by Shuna, wielding a katana forged by Kurobe with runes personally inscribed by Rimuru. He unsheaths his katana and holds it in a combat-ready stance pointed towards the otherworlders. Benimaru, we will have our battle here. Shogo, ha. And who the fuck are you? Benimaru, the name bestowed onto me by my master is Benimaru. You, on the other hand, are approaching his city with hostile intent. I will stop you here. Shogo, ha. Do you think you can stop us? Shogo flares his magicules and looks towards Benimaru with a sadistic smile, expecting him to show fear towards his overwhelming aura like all the other people he met. But he was disappointed and angered when Benimaru simply looked on without any change in expression, as if the pressure of Shogo's aura did absolute jack shit. Which was what happened, but Shogo just didn't know that. Or rather, he refused to believe it. Shogo, he must be too weak to feel my aura. That is the thought running through his head, which is also bullshit because even ants can feel the aura that is purposely projected to pressure others. Right now, it's just Benimaru standing there alone, so Shogo and his other two companions don't see any threat in him, especially when they can't sense any magicules from him. The reincarnator, however, just looks at the two sides with amusement. Taking this as a challenge, it wasn't, Shogo runs forward and activates his unique skill, Berserker, that greatly increases his physical aspects. Shogo, I'll beat the shit out of you first. Then I'll kill everyone else in that shitty city. To the untrained eye, it would look like Shogo instantly teleported directly in front of Benimaru and is in the middle of throwing a punch towards him, with that sadistic smile still on his face. Benimaru's eyes turn cold. Shing! Benimaru's blade flashed. He flicks his blade, shaking all the blood off it before sheathing it again. Meanwhile, Shogo slowly loses his smile as his head turns towards his now severed arm, making a beautiful parabola through the air. Shogo Farjh. Shogo said calmly. Name, Rimuru. Race, Origin Slime. Protection, Crest of Space. Title, Highest Tier Spirit, Leader of the Monsters, Oniai-chan, King of Avalon, Master of Head Pats, Procrastinator King, The Nutcracker, Socially Awkward Cringe Slightly Chuyuni Slime, Dragon Slayer, Sensei. Manus, Iliasville. Ultimate Skills, Belzebuth, Lord of Gluttony, Ahura Mazda, Lord of Creation, Scathach, Lord of Runes. Unique Skills, Spatial Ruler. Intrinsic Skills, Infinite Regeneration, Universal Shape Shift, Universal Sense, Enhanced Replication, Universal Thread. Extra Skills, Lord's Ambition, Thought Communication, Control Natural Elements, Control Magic, Control Gravity. Resistances, Cancel Pain, Resist Melee Attack, Cancel Natural Elements, Cancel Ailments, Cancel Spiritual Attack, Resist Holy/Demonic Attack, Natural Attack Resistance. Equipment, Yamato, Limiter Ring. If you want to support me, check out my Patreon at https://www.patreon.com/Kaishin. I tend to polls that decide important plot stuff in my Patreon. Many thanks to my awesome patrons. Ben Phillips, Yamatancho, Taco TSK, Yuki, Search 1301. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. I'll be here until next time.